We have breaking news. The Toronto Maple Leafs have just robbed the NHL as they have made a sneaky good signing. And the signing is a huge defenseman. To break down exactly who it is and discuss what it means going forward, as this has fans fired up. We also have multiple Leafs updates, some more stuff going around, particularly involving Matthew Knies. Ton to go over today, but before you get into it, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, it's the place to be for daily Leafs content. Your guys' support has been unbelievable. Darius, breaking news came out just minutes ago, and I mean minutes ago, and the Toronto Maple Leafs, they robbed the NHL once again, picking up another prospect and kind of replenishing that pool that they lost at the trade deadline for Brandon Carlo and Scott Laughton. They come out and they sign Blake Smith to a 3-year entry-level contract. And if you're unfamiliar with Blake Smith, he is a defenseman. He is a big boy. This is now the second defenseman they've signed since the trade deadline regarding prospects. And man, oh man, I love to see Brad Treliving going out of his way to get so many of these highly touted guys, and obviously a couple of them are more highly touted than Blake Smith, but he is a very solid player. We're going to dive into his stats and a bunch of different things. 32 points. Darius, what are your thoughts on Blake Smith? I know you're a bit familiar with him.
Yeah, a lot to like from this player. I think this is a really good signing for the Leafs. He's an overager in the OHL, so this was his last season. So you would like to see him dominate a little bit, which he kind of did at times this season, but he's ready for the next step. He's ready to go pro and see how he can kind of use these skills that he's learned in the OHL to go pro and maybe at the AHL level, right? I think he can make the jump pretty soon, honestly, to the AHL level. So he's a big boy, right? He's 6'3", like he's big and he's a good skater, which is not really common for bigger guys like that, especially defenseman, but he's really mobile too. And he's got a good shot from the back end as well. So that's something to look forward to, which the Leafs underratedly right now, I know this is not something that's going to solve a problem immediately or even a couple years down the road, but they don't really have that much offense from their back end. And this is a guy who's big. He can play physical. He's a good skater and he's got a shot. So it's a really good signing to me. And again, Flint wasn't expected to be that good this year. They ended up finishing, in the bottom half of the conference. They ended up playing and getting eliminated by the Kitchener Rangers in the first round of this year's OHL playoffs, but they were a lot better than people thought, and he kind of led the way to a degree in some ways, right? So he's a really good player. I'm a big fan of this signing. I think this is a really good thing. Again, let's not expect him to make the jump to the NHL like right away or anything like that, but he's going to go in. He's going to work with the skills coaches. He's going to work with the Marlies as well, but they can teach him a lot in terms of stuff that he doesn't already bring to the table, which is the size. He's a good skater, the shot, all of that. I'll keep saying it that, again, I think this is a good signing. And again, he's an overager, so ready to make the jump, right? This is not a guy who's 18, 19 or anything like that. He was ready to go. And I think it's a pretty sneaky signing. It's good.
Yeah, look at the points there. He started back with the Oshawa Generals in 2018. And this season, it was his breakout year offensively. 10 goals, 22 assists. I mean, 10 goals is a huge jump from his rookie year way back, even with the Oshawa Generals, of course, different leagues. But regardless of that, he had a very good year this past year. And it's signings like this with undrafted guys that you really can find the diamonds in the rough here. You can see here from Kyle Cushman, yet another undrafted free agent signing by the Maple Leafs. Smith is a 6'5", 225-pound defenseman, a left shot defenseman, 32 points and 54 penalty minutes in 64 games with Flint last season as an overager. And obviously, like you mentioned multiple times, he's an overager, so these numbers are fairly expected. But for the Leafs to come out and get another player another prospect, especially a defenseman, and you mentioned it, the defensive core right now for the Leafs is fairly old. You have Chris Tanev, OEL, of course. You have some younger kind of guy, like not young. You don't really have a super young defensive core by any means, and most of the guys are going to be locked up for the foreseeable future. So kind of transitioning into the next stage, and especially just getting some prospects back following the trade deadline. Obviously, this guy isn't the most highly touted prospect. Of course, he went undrafted, but that's what you want to do if you're Brad Treliving, especially when you gave up a bunch of, one wild card in Nikita Grabenkin. We'll see how he pans out, and one surefire NHLer, you would assume, in Fraser Minton. So it is interesting. Again, he's 6'5". It is an ELC, and it begins at the start of the 2025-2026 season. As we are now just days away from the playoffs, it's good to see Brad Treliving kind of replenish the prospect cupboard even more, and the Leafs have been very active in that regard this season, and especially since the trade deadline, they've been stocking up on these prospects, which is great to see.
Yeah, it's great to see because they needed to do it, right? You're trading away a couple prospects. You're going into the NCAA, you're going into the OHL and looking at guys who haven't been drafted and who have improved their game, like you mentioned with the Oshawa Generals when he first started his career. And, when he was playing junior, maybe his game's a little more polite, right? And now that he's made it over to the OHL, as he's progressed a little bit now with the Flint Firebirds and his OHL or his overage season in the OHL. He has a little bit of a mean streak to him too, using his size to his advantage. So I really like this signing. I'm excited to see what he can do at the next level. I would have preferred maybe a guy, a bigger guy like a Connor Smith or something, but the Anaheim Ducks already have him locked up as a draft pick. So that's that. But this is another really, really good option. One of the bigger defensemen in the OHL as well.
Yeah, at least you're able to rob the NHL once again by grabbing one of these underrated prospects. And it's going to be a guy we're talking about for the foreseeable future, as well as some of the other guys that they were able to grab in the, free agency pool, the college pool, all these different things. But let's dive into another topic conversation now. Again, we are days away. I mean, technically not days away. We're 9 days away from the playoffs, but I'm going to say days away because it feels like it. And the Leafs obviously have a big game on Saturday against the Montreal Canadiens. That's going to be a big, big game. But the biggest storyline now has been over the past little bit, Matthew Knies and how he's developed. We had a video on it this morning, and there's been some more stuff that has come out from former Leaf, former Flames captain, well-respected player, of course, Mark Giordano. He's a monster. I always hated playing against guys like that, and he's talking about the growth and the development of Matthew Knies and his experiences with him during the time with the Leafs. He's a monster. He's strong. He's powerful. He's a big kid. And I want to speak about this because obviously we know how good he's been. He quickly evolved into one of the best young players in the NHL. We spoke about the contract earlier, this morning. He's going to be someone who is absolutely going to be highly, well regarded around the Leafs organization, but well sought after by other teams as well. And to see him get the praise that he's getting from everybody, I think he's going to be one of the more, maybe not underrated to Leafs fans, but underrated towards whatever team the Leafs play in the first round, whether that's Ottawa, probably Ottawa at this point, Florida. He's going to come out ready to go, and I think he's going to be a huge contributor to this playoff run. And regardless of his future, I think for this specific playoff run, he's going to be one of the key factors, whether it be in the power play, in front of the net, screening, all these different things.
I think he will be a factor because he plays the right way. And we've seen it in the past in the playoffs that he goes to the areas where a lot of guys don't like to go. He goes to the front of the net. So he's going to find success in those areas because it's hard to defend him. We'll get to another quote from Giordano in a second too. It's just really hard to defend what he brings to the table, right? So I think he's going to find success. And I like the way that the Leafs lines are set up. At least what we're expecting will start the playoffs where, your first line, you have Matthew Knies up there who's going to drive the net with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, elite players in the league, of course. Will they show up for the playoffs, right? We've seen it in the past, so hopefully they do at times. We've seen it in the past, I should say, but hopefully they do. And then when you look at the second line, Tavares is playing great this year. Nylander always shows up in the playoffs. And now McMahon, we haven't seen what he can bring in the playoffs. That's another option too. But to get back to Knies, I mean, what he brings to the table, it's just hard to defend against, especially in the playoffs. And I think he's going to continue to do that. I'm excited to see what his contract, what the rumblings are around that, because he's going to make a lot of money. Hopefully it's long term. So then, the contract ages better as time goes on, but we'll see what he ends up getting because he's been unbelievable. I mean, I don't think anyone predicted him to score 30 goals this season, right? Take a step, sure, but 30 goals, I mean, he's been, he's far surpassed anything that I think anyone has predicted for him.
Yeah, let's dive into some of those comments for a wrap up here from, like you mentioned, Mark Giordano. A couple different things here. He came out and said, I remember Matthew Tkachuk in Calgary. People didn't always give him enough credit for how skilled he was in tight spaces around the net, and that's why he scores so many goals off of rebounds and scrappy plays. Knies has really impressed them. He's having a great year, and I hope he keeps it going. Comparing him to Matthew Knies, or Matthew Knies to Matthew Tkachuk, both Matthews, is obviously high praise. I always hated playing against guys like that, like I mentioned, where you couldn't really attack or be physical. You had to sort of lay off and use your stick because they were so strong. And he obviously compares him once again to Matthew Tkachuk because, of course, he played for the Flames for a number of years and played alongside Matthew Tkachuk. At the end of the day, it's going to be and this is why his play style is going to work in the playoffs. He's physical, he's aggressive, forechecking, everything he does lines up perfectly with what not only Craig Berube's style of play is, but of course what playoff hockey needs. So any final thoughts on this before we wrap up?
Yeah, he's been unbelievable, and he's going to continue to be good for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the playoffs. We've seen it, right? Like his first season when he came in with just a handful of games left in the regular season. Then he played the playoffs, had a couple points. He assisted on John Tavares' series-winning goal against the Tampa Bay Lightning a couple of years ago, and then last year, a couple goals again. Like he plays the right way. I like the way he plays. It's sustainable when you move over to the playoffs. So it's just a matter of time. He's going to find success in this year's playoffs too. I'm excited to see what damage he can do.
Yeah, let us know down below what your thoughts are. Keeping you up to date. The signing happened minutes ago. So if you want to stay up to date, make sure to subscribe. And thank you guys for watching.